And otherwise, it's one of the dice buttons, one of the ones that we have the image on. So now we need to figure out which one of those things it was. That sounds like a for loop. This will be less than the dice buttons a dot length, not a, just length. Okay. So if the source of the click equals a particular one, then we know that that's the one that we've selected. So we've clicked on one of the images which has the dice on them. If that particular one that corresponds to this A variable, if that is a hot die, I need to signal some way that this has been selected. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the background color to red. And set background is what I want. Color red. You could use other colors if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use the defaults. So there's a whole myriad of custom colors you can set up with by creating your own new color and handing it red, green, and blue values. Let's see, the next thing I need to do is I need to change the button state. You are now a score die. Let's see, I think that's all I need to do for clicking a button. So if it's not a hot die, that means it's a score die. So I need to change it back to being light gray. Dice buttons a dot set background color dot light gray. And you are now back to a hot die. So we roll. Cool. So now we've selected a particular button, and we need to find out what kind of score we're going to get for it. This is probably the most complicated section of the coding. This is where we have to go through and figure out, do we have 3 of a kind? Do we have 1 of a particular thing? So to begin with, let's go ahead and keep track of, count up how many things we've actually got. So value count. Let's see, I'm going to have 6 things. But now that I think about it, it'll be kind of a pain to be able to see how much score I have if I have 0 through 5 and have to constantly remember, oh yeah, 0 is a 1. So let's actually do 7 things in here. And I'll just ignore the 0 spot, but then it'll be easier to figure out how much, basically it'll be easier to see from the coding what the scores are actually going to be. Go through the array. We're going to go through dice buttons. And if you're a scoring die, so it's one of the ones we've selected, then we're going to go grab whatever the current value of it, what the die number is, except that's 0 through 5. So we actually need to add 1 to this. We're just using this to tally up how many times we've seen a particular number, so we're just going to add 1 to that. It's a little like table sort, where you're just using this as a tally system. So I've seen this many 1s, I've seen this many 2s, and so on. So that should grab all of those, and so now I need to actually start putting in the rules. Why don't I go ahead and actually deal with invalid counts first. So if I ever have 1 or 2 2s selected, that won't score. If the value count 2 is greater than 0 and value count 2 is less than 3, so basically if it's 1 or 2, This means you have an invalid die. And the same thing is going to happen for 3. So let's just grab this. So if you put in 3, also bad. Let's go down to the next line. Same thing for 4. Now 5 is okay. You're allowed to have single 1s and single 5s, or 2 1s or 2 5s. So the last one I need is 6. So if any of those are the case, that's not allowed. And in particular, why don't I just go ahead and say something here that says that that's not valid. So there's something called J-option pane that allows us to do pop-ups. And I think it's just a basic message dialog. There's a whole tutorial on this that shows all the different things you can do with J-option panes, and there's a ton of them. So we pass in the frame, and then we pass in the message we want to show. Invalid die selected. So I select that. No good. What if we do score? And how many points do we get for each of these? If the value count, let's see, let's go ahead and do the triples first. So if I get at least 3, let's see, of, not A, let's do of 1s. Then that's going to be the number of 1s. So if I have 3 of them, I want to do 1,000 times that number. Because if I get 3 1s, I get 1,000. And then if I get 4 1s, I need to multiply that by another 1,000, so on. Okay, so that's for 1s. I don't want else ifs on these because I want to make sure that I get every possible combination for scoring. So if the number of 2s is greater than or equal to 3, it's going to be very similar to this, except that instead of times 1,000, it's going to be times 200. Not 2,000, 200. I should make sure that that's the number of 2s. I think you're probably seeing where this is going. 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. So 3s will be multiplied by 300. 4s will be multiplied by 400. 5s multiplied by 500. 6s multiplied by 600. So that's if I get triples. Should probably also make sure I do the single 1s and 5s as well. So I have if it's greater than or equal to 3, but if it's less than 3, then it's just going to be however many 1s I have times 100. So a single 1 will be 100, 2 1s would be 200. Should spell current properly. And then 5s are special. that will be value count 5 times 50. So that will add up all the different scores, and then I should probably make sure the player can see that. Otherwise, this will not be a very exciting game. Dot set text on a label will be current score with a space plus current score. Let's see how that goes. I roll the dice. Wow, the only thing I can score is just 5. So if I score that, there we go, 50 points. Good.